All right, so my name is Brendan Foley. I'm head of product management for the ecosystem business at Atlassian. A word on Atlassian. What we do at Atlassian is we provide software tools for businesses for collaboration. So some of the products you may have heard of are Jira for project management, or Confluence as an enterprise wiki, Stride as an instant messaging offering. Now, one of the interesting things about Atlassian products is that all of our products are sold through e-commerce. So we're selling to business customers all through e-commerce. I've been at Atlassian for the past year. Prior to Atlassian, I spent 4 years at Sears in the greater Chicago area, where I ran product management for Sears.com and Kmart.com, and later for the online marketplace. I've been working in product management for about 13, 14 years. And so why I'm excited to be here today, and I know, man, it's been like 2 days of presentations, maybe people are tired. I want to try to communicate some of the excitement that I feel around e-commerce, whether it's on the B2B or the B2C side, or why it's a really cool place for you as product managers to work. So the title of my presentation is, How do e-commerce products succeed? And when we talk about e-commerce, we're talking about a $10 trillion market worldwide across both B2B and B2C. In the US alone, e-commerce accounts for 10% of all purchases made through retail, and it's growing at a 15% clip year over year. But when we talk about e-commerce products, I think probably the one question I would have if I were in the audience is, well, what do you mean by an e-commerce product? Exactly what is that? And so when we think about an e-commerce product, and when you as a product manager think about an e-commerce product, it's really thinking about the overall end-to-end experience that you want to deliver to your customer, whether a consumer or a business customer. And it doesn't matter whether that customer accesses your experience through a mobile device, which we'll talk a lot about, and given the increase in e-commerce growth through mobile, through desktop, or through emerging devices like smart speakers or even connected devices. It's really about how do we deliver an end-to-end experience that the customer values, and at each part of the experience, thinking about what can we do to deepen our engagement with the customer, both the first time they visit and then when they keep visiting, hopefully on an ongoing basis. It covers things like how do we attract traffic to our experience, both new users and recurring users. Regardless of whether they land on the home page and search and browse, on a category page, how do we help them find the product or the service that they're most interested in? When they get to the product page, how can we present just the right amount of information for them to determine whether or not they want to add it to cart? And if they don't want to add it to cart, how can we then enable them to continue browsing through the experience so that we don't lose them? Once the product is added to cart, we then think about the bottom of funnel. How can we get that customer quickly and efficiently through the purchase process, but at the same time provide incentives to them to build their basket, to maybe add other products that they hadn't previously considered as part of their journey? And then also, what other incentives can we provide in terms of maximizing the value of the transaction? And then across the experience, how can we think about personalizing the experience? How can we provide incentives to customers to log in and stay logged in, to provide explicit signals around their preferences to us, so that the more they engage with us, the more personalized the experience becomes, the more likely they are to buy products, and the more likely they are to stay with us as a lifetime customer. And location awareness is something increasingly important, especially given the growth of mobile. And it's all about how do we deliver on these target end states around an easy and fast experience through the funnel, maximizing the average order value per transaction. But by far the most important thing is how can we encourage repeat visits and loyal visits? Because the more we can attract a loyal customer base, the greater the likelihood we're going to maximize their lifetime value to us. So that's when I think about e-commerce product, it's really the entire experience. And now let's talk about some of the really cool things going on about why I'm excited about e-commerce, just the sheer amount of trends that are happening. And what I hope you'll see is as we talk through this, that a lot of these are interconnected. So let's start with the first one in the upper left-hand corner, mobile. So today, retailers in particular are scrambling to try to figure out how to optimize their experience for mobile, having spent a lot of time over the past 10 years building for desktop. Today, 40% of transactions, 40% of the dollar value of transactions occurs through mobile devices. And what's also tightly linked to mobile is social. 80% of social engagement happens through a mobile device. And so retailers and others are trying to figure out, well, how can we highlight our products in those apps where consumers or even business customers are spending their most time? From a consumer perspective, sites like Pinterest or Instagram are now providing opportunities to retailers to highlight their products in the context of their browsing. So a great example of this is Pinterest Shop the Look, where by looking at the experience, you can then interact with the look you're looking at, and then be able to engage with the products directly. Now, also thinking about major trends, omni-channel is a huge trend. So when we talk about omni-channel, it's really about how do we bring together all the different channels through which we can engage a customer, through mobile, through desktop, through the store experience, through the call center, to maximize our engagement and our experience with that customer and deepen the relationship. So omni-channel covers a whole slew of things. It covers everything from buy online and pick up in store, which probably a number of you have tried out. But buy online and pick up in store isn't just for clothing anymore. On the way over, I was listening to CNBC, and the CEO for Starbucks was talking about the importance of their mobile app and around how people increasingly buy coffees or order their coffee through their mobile app and then pick it up in the Starbucks store. One other thing that's really important about that is that if we can get people into the store, 60% of the time they're going to walk out of the store not just having picked up that item, but having bought additional merchandise as well. But omnichannel covers other things as well. Being able to shop in the store and then have something delivered to your home. Increasingly, retailers that are under pressure are starting to shrink their store space and also shrink the assortment that they have in the store, because it costs money to have inventory sitting in the store. And they're using tablet devices or mobile devices to interact with customers. And if the shirt that you want and the variation on that shirt isn't in the store, you can have the store associate order it through the kiosk or order it through their device and have it shipped to your home. Another example is being able to buy online and have it be delivered to your home. So most recently, you guys all know that Amazon bought Whole Foods. They recently announced that if you buy that for Prime members, they're going to enable 2-hour delivery from your local Whole Foods if you buy online and have it delivered from the local Whole Foods. So a ton going on with omni-channel and with mobile being core to it. Not surprisingly, voice search is also on the horizon. So today, from what I've been reading, about 20% of Google's mobile searches are voice enabled. So it shouldn't be that much of a surprise to us to see that smart speakers like Alexa and Google smart speaker are becoming more and more popular. Now, initially, a lot of the traction with these smart speakers revolves around people using them to listen to music or ask questions, but 1/3 of consumers over the course of the next year have indicated that they intend to make purchases through voice, through these devices and their phone. Now let's go up to the upper right-hand corner, one-click purchasing. So a couple of facts. According to the Baymard Institute, which is one of the research arms that we would use to understand how consumers are engaging, 70% of the time, consumers abandon their cart. We've probably all done this, right? You add something to cart, and you say, I'm not really sure about it, and then you leave. Now, with mobile devices, it's even worse. It's 97%. So one-click purchasing is a great way, if the consumer or the business customer's information, payment information is saved, to be able to get them through the checkout process quickly and efficiently. A couple key things to highlight here. Amazon was the early leader in this with one-click purchasing. In fact, that's one of the things they're known for. Their patent expired in October of last year. So a number of retailers are looking at, well, how can we enable one-click purchasing versus having to worry about that patent? The other thing that we're seeing with one-click purchasing is the emergence of fast payment options like Amazon Pay or Google Pay, not only through desktop but also through mobile to allow you to buy quickly and efficiently. One other thing I'd note on one-click purchasing is no-click purchasing or subscriptions. So anything that requires like ongoing replenishment, consumer packaged goods or apparel is a candidate for a subscription. And we're seeing that subscription interest take off not only with mobile and desktop, but also with smart speakers through Alexa, through Google Assistant. And it even goes beyond that, like to connected devices. So take Brita, for example, Brita water filters. Through integration with Amazon Dash, you can set it up so that your water filters are automatically sent to you without any engagement whatsoever. So a huge opportunity. And then when you take all of this together, there's so much opportunity to take what's happened in the B2B, in the business to consumer space, the retail space, and apply these best practices in B2B, in the space that I'm now working in. Now, just a couple of, before we get into like how does all these trends play out in today's e-commerce experience? A word on the differences between B2C and B2B e-commerce. So with B2B, like B2C, everyone's pretty familiar with this, but B2B, the buyer, like oftentimes in B2B, it's a little more complex. It's an individual buying, but maybe it's a team buying or it's a company purchasing. With B2B, especially with enterprise software, oftentimes customers want to try it before they buy it. It can also be a more complex purchase. Oftentimes there's a lot more due diligence that goes into thinking about, well, should I buy this product, and approvals that are needed. And I would argue that a lot of where we're at in terms of B2B e-commerce is at a relatively early stage compared to the sophistication in retail. But the size of the market is almost 3 times the size of the retail market. So a huge opportunity and very exciting. So, all right, so now let's like, given all of this that we've talked about, like the trends and so forth, let's walk through the experience and see, like, you as product managers, if you work in e-commerce, what are some of the things you think about at each stage of the funnel, whether it's top of funnel, bottom of funnel, and so forth? Now, a great example of this is Amazon. So everyone's very familiar with Amazon. Now, in this case, I pretended to be my wife shopping. So I deleted all my cookies, and I came onto the site as a truly anonymous user. Now, what did Amazon do? And what did the product, and in turn, the product thinking behind this experience? Well, given that they don't know anything about me, the approach is to highlight default offers that would be broadly applicable. Like, let's say in this case, it was around Valentine's Day. So given that they don't know anything about me, they're highlighting Valentine's Day offers. Or highlighting things that the retailer wants to promote. In this case, Amazon's promoting their smart speaker to encourage another channel for e-commerce. One thing you'll notice is with a lot of retailers, and even in B2B e-commerce, is prompting you to sign in. Because if we can get you to sign in, then we can not only track you over the course of multiple transactions. We can understand your order history. We then have the opportunity to personalize the experience beyond that session. And easily there can be a 25% difference in terms of conversion upon sign-in. Now in this case, I did sign in as my wife, and the entire experience is now personalized. It's based on my wife's explicit and implicit behaviors on the site, highlighting categories that she would be interested in, highlighting her browse history, basically demonstrating to her that Amazon knows her, but in doing so, highlighting those products that she will most likely click on and engage with. Now let's say in this case, she or I decided to search for some clothing. So what's going on with the search page? Well, with the search page, algorithms are being used to drive what is predicted to be what should be of most interest to me as a consumer. But a couple of things to highlight in terms of what's going on here. the three top things when it comes to considering a product is the description of the product, the price and the value, and ratings and reviews. And you see that all captured, in brief on this page. The whole intention is, how do we get you to click through to the product page? But in case that this isn't appropriate to you, we provide filters on the left-hand side, and a lot of thinking goes into those filters around what are the things that people most likely want to filter by in case these results are not relevant. Now, let's say I decided not to search, but rather browse. A lot of thinking from a product perspective goes into how the site should be organized. What should be what we call the taxonomy of the site? How do we group products based on, and then how do we surface browsing options based on what's top selling, or what you as consumers search for in terms of keywords? And then doing UX research, we call it card sorting, where we present different categories or options to you and then ask the consumer to sort of group things on what makes the most sense for them. Why this is really important is for two reasons. One is that a good site taxonomy has a lot of benefits from a search engine optimization perspective. It helps build trust in the site that it is an authority on those particular topics. Second reason why it's really important is that a proper taxonomy helps with search. Because as you're typing in a search bar, we're trying to category predict or narrow down the results that might be relevant to you. And the taxonomy or the categories is core to that. Now let's say I've gone through search or browse, and now I'm on the product listing page. Now there's you'll see on any given site, whether it's consumer or business, two types of pages. One that's more focused on aspirational products like clothing or furniture. Another type of page that's more focused on complex purchases. Now, here I'm showing an apparel page. Apparel is one of the biggest categories within e-commerce and one of the fastest growing. But what you'll see with aspirational pages is a focus on the image, a focus on something that elicits an emotion. But if this product isn't the right one, you'll also commonly see other options, personalized options, product recommendations surfaced either immediately below the product or on the right-hand side. That's very intentional, and that's all driven by machine learning. What you do see that's common across, whether it's a complex a purchase or an aspirational purchase, is the buy box. This section that we see, which is really trying to summarize, here's what the product is, what the price is, what the variations are, colors or sizes, and with a very clear call to action. And it's very important to have a very clear call to action, because if you have 2 or 3 calls to action, you see conversion drop. One final note on, if I were looking at an appliance page or even an enterprise software page, it would be very different. You would see an image, and you would see the buy box, but you would then see a lot more detail in terms of specs, in terms of other content buying guides. And then, because it's a complex purchase, you need to provide more information to help them make a purchase decision. And then product recommendations would probably be lower on the page. So given you've gone through all the information and decided it's not for you, before you leave the page, here's some other products you should consider. All right, so now that we've gotten our consumer to add the product to cart, we now enter the bottom of the funnel. So we need to balance between getting them through quickly this bottom of the funnel, but then also highlighting products that may be of interest to them to build the basket. Here's an example from Grainger where a business customer added product A, but then in the mini cart it says, are you done shopping? Or it's an opportunity to highlight other products that folks like yourself have bought. This is all very intentional. It's driven by machine learning, and product managers inside of retailers or others oftentimes will focus on personalization across the funnel. Then we get to cart and checkout. So going back to our Amazon example, this is an example of the one-click checkout. Now, a couple of things that are interesting here that are also very intentional is highlighting or making by default the credit card of the retailer. So in here you see it's Amazon Prime Rewards is the highlighted option. This is very intentional for a couple of reasons. One, if I as a retailer can get you to use my credit card, I save on interchange fees. I don't have to pay Visa or Amex additional fees. Two is that if you carry a balance on the credit card, it's highly profitable. Retail is a tough business. The average credit card balance of an American consumer today is over $6,000, and interest rates are pretty high. So that's another source of potential revenue. And the third thing is, the more end users use your credit card, we also see the more they tend to be loyal to you as a retailer. The other thing you'll notice is shipping options. So oftentimes there are product managers inside of a company that will focus on fulfillment. We know that free shipping is the thing that stimulates the most interest from consumers in terms of purchase, and so you see that highlighted as well. And then lastly, whether it's in cart and checkout or in the post-purchase experience, to make it very clear what you're paying, what you're saving, and then to help you through the process very quickly. In the interest of time, I won't dwell too much on this slide, but suffice to say, as hopefully you've seen throughout the buy flow, personalization is a core aspect of it, both based on what implicit signals, but also explicit signals. You'll see some retailers doing questionnaires and other things to get you to provide explicit inputs on products of interest. But the more we know about you, the more we can personalize the experience, whether it's search, browse, or across the funnel to optimize conversions and click-through. Let's now talk about mobile. So mobile is, as I mentioned, is rapidly growing, and if it hasn't already overtaken desktop, it will soon. However, we have a big conversion challenge with mobile. Conversion, and not just in the U.S., but I was looking online today. It's a worldwide phenomenon. The conversion is half of what it normally is on a desktop, and for what reasons? Although we spend the majority of our time on mobile, a very small part of dollars actually comes through mobile. It comes down to the basics that we were just talking about in terms of being able to see product details, making navigation easy, being able to input details and check out quickly. And so when you're thinking about mobile as a product manager, these are some of the principles you should really think about, like designing for mobile first, developing an experience that's simplified. Really think about what your customer is trying to do and then help them do it quickly and efficiently. A couple other tactics to think about. Cross-device carts. It's not uncommon for somebody to start browsing in mobile, abandon the cart, but then maybe pick it up again in desktop. So that's a key thing to think about, is how can you maintain that cart across devices. In sending app downloads versus mobile web. This is a lot of retailers and also B2B e-commerce companies are thinking about this. If I can get you to download the app, chances are you're going to be a more loyal customer, and I can also deliver one-to-one messages to you, not only outside of the store, but also in the store, in terms of providing in-store navigation or highlighting deals and coupons that could be of interest to you. So in closing, just a few thoughts on, what makes a successful product manager in e-commerce? And honestly, it's a lot of what has been talked about over the past couple of days. It's really no different than any other product. It's really thinking about who is your target customer. What is she trying to do? What are her pain points? How does she like to shop? What is your value proposition? Why are you different from competitors? Where are you going to be equal to competitors, or what's differentiating? And then most importantly, how does the entire experience, going back to the end-to-end experience, support that value proposition? A couple things that are a little bit specific to e-commerce are research and metrics. So research is critical, like understanding and using your e-commerce experience, thinking about your target customer, but then also looking at your competitors' experiences. What are best practices, or where are their weaknesses? UX research is critical, really going deep and understanding how does your consumer or your business customer think. Like, what are their habits and practices? Testing out concepts, refining hypotheses. But you have to also A/B test. So you can hear one thing from consumers or from business customers, but what they do online or on mobile could be very different. So A/B testing is critical. Lastly is metrics. So as we talked about the funnel, whether it's top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel, really analyzing metrics on a daily basis or minimum a weekly basis to understand, well, to what degree are customers to what degree are the home page, search and browse page, category pages helping customers get to the product page they want? On the product page, how often are they actually adding to cart? And then when they are in cart, how often are they converting? Other data and metrics to look at are heat maps to understand, well, how in practice are customers engaging? Page load times, something that oftentimes gets overlooked. But a 2-second delay in a page load time, if someone's in a transactional mode, can result in an 80% exit rate. And we talked about logged in versus non-logged in and this other metric on average selling price. So in closing, there's so much going on in e-commerce. It's a fascinating space, both on the B2B and the B2C side. One other thing I would also just mention is that we at Atlassian are hiring for product managers. And if you're interested, I'll be sticking around. If we don't happen to hook up for whatever reason, my email address is bfoley@atlassian.com. So thank you for your time.